So we will continue our discussion on taxation. We have started off with this module. We have completed around 8 lectures so far, and this is your last session on this particular module. So we have already covered everything comprehensively. So in this lecture, I'll be talking about mainly the features of Indian tax system or tax structure, features of Indian tax structure. Okay, so we will see what are the important features of Indian tax structure. Basically, it is coming from all the previous discussions that we have done. I'm just going to summarize the discussions that we have done. So from that, actually, you'll get all the features. Okay, and then we will talk about some concepts like tax elasticity. Okay, so if you remember, we have before discussed about income elasticity of demand and all those things. We have discussed price elasticity, income elasticity of demand, all those things we have covered in the demand supply chapter. So here tax elasticity, and then we will also talk about tax buoyancy, again very important concept, and which one is more significant and more important in understanding the features of Indian tax system, or which one will reflect the features of Indian tax system in a much better way. We'll try to analyze that. We will also talk about one important question which can be asked in prelims, that is related to Laffer curve, and then we will see what you mean by tax expenditure. Okay, so I'm going to cover these areas today in this particular lecture. So let's start with features of Indian tax structure. Okay, so features of Indian tax structure. So what's the most important feature? What's the type of taxation that we are following? The first one that you can write is actually progressive type, right? So if you remember, we have discussed various types of tax. In that, we have discussed about progressive tax, proportional tax, regressive tax, digressive tax, everything we have covered. So this is what proportional tax, if this is the taxable income, okay, and this is the tax rate. The tax rate will be same, we have discussed in case of corporate income tax. So this is proportional tax. Okay, what about progressive? Progressive will go like this: more the income, more the taxable income, more the tax you need to pay. Regressive will go like this: more the income you need to pay, less tax. Digressive is like a kind of progressive, so to certain extent, to some income it is going to be progressive, and then it is going to be constant like this. So it will be progressive, and after this particular point of time, or at this income, it will be constant. Okay, so these are the different types of taxes we have discussed, and India, it is progressive type, and every country, most of the countries are following progressive type only, but in India's case it is significantly progressive, because if you remember, we have talked about surcharge and all those concepts, right? That means surcharge is a tax on tax, or some additional charges which are imposed upon tax. Okay, and these are actually imposed upon super rich people. Okay, so if you have income beyond 50 lakh, okay, 50 lakh to 1 crore, you have 10% surcharge. Okay, and then beyond 1 crore, you have 15% surcharge. All those things we have discussed. So already, if your income is about 10 lakh, you are generally supposed to pay 30% as the tax. The tax slabs we have discussed: 0 to 2.5 lakhs, it's exempted. 2.5 to 5, it is 5%. 5 to 10, it is 20%, and more than 10 lakh, you are supposed to pay 30%. So this 50 lakhs is coming under 30%, but if it is above 50 lakhs, you have to pay 10% more. That means 10% of this 30, that is 33% you are supposed to pay. And if it is above 1 crore, 15% of 30, that means around 34.5% is what you're supposed to pay. So that's the reason why I told you in India it is significantly progressive. Okay, because we are imposing surcharge on super rich people. Second point, multiplicity of tax, right? Multiplicity of tax. We are having different types of tax, but after GST, most of the taxes are actually reduced to GST, okay, or combined into GST. So after that, this is actually reduced, but still a lot of different taxes are there. So what about the third feature? Narrow tax base. Okay, so that is also one of the feature of Indian tax structure. Very limited population is actually paying tax. Hardly 7% of the adult population is actually paying tax, which is very low, and that's why narrow tax base. And narrow tax base is one of the most important reason 4, the low tax GDP ratio. Okay, so tax revenue is actually low because of narrow tax base. Most of the people are not paying tax. They are mostly in unorganized sector, so it is difficult to identify also. So there are a lot of structural issues related to this. Okay, so narrow tax base. Fourth one, what about our tax laws? These are our tax laws are not simple laws. These are very complex laws, and that will lead to a lot of tax avoidance. Okay, so complex tax laws leading to tax evasion or tax avoidance. Okay, so if you are illegally see, when I'm talking about tax evasion, it is reducing tax liability through illegal means. By showing no income, you can reduce the tax liability, so that is tax evasion. Tax avoidance means you are legally doing it by misusing the provisions in the tax laws. Okay, so because of complex tax laws, there is possibility of tax evasion as well as tax avoidance. Okay, 5, what about our tax rates? The tax rates are drastically reduced after 1991, but even after this drastic reduction, the tax rates are moderately high. Okay, so these are not very low, so tax rates are moderately high. Okay, so see, in 1991, if you remember, in one of our previous discussion, we have discussed already that at that time income tax was around 50%, and in some cases the taxes went up to 97.25%. Okay, and then came this Chelaiya committee and then Kelkar committee. All those recommendations we have seen, and based on the recommendation of Chelaiya committee, we have reduced this income tax from 50% to this at the present level. Okay, see, if it is 50%, tax rate is high, but the tax revenue you're going to get may not be high, because if the tax rates are very high, it will motivate you to evade tax. Okay, not to pay tax. But if the tax rates are low, then there is a chance that people will pay tax, and the tax base will widen, and the tax revenue will also increase. And you can see the direct taxes in 1991, at this time it was around 19% of the tax collected at the center level, and now it is around 55%. So one more important fact that we can understand here, the share of direct tax at the center level is more than 50%. And one important point is the share of direct tax is consistently increasing. Okay, so ultimately what I want to tell here is the tax rates are moderately high even after the drastic reduction after various committee recommendations, especially Chelaiya committee recommendation. Okay, but because of that reduction, actually you can see tax revenues is increasing because tax compliance is better. This you can actually write as the next point: share of direct taxes is consistently increasing. Okay, so share of direct taxes is consistently increasing. But when I'm talking about the share of direct taxes, I'm talking at the central taxes. Okay, so it was I've already discussed in 1991. In 1991 it was 19%. Now it is 55%. So what you need to know here is actually it is more than 55%. At the central level, direct taxes contributing more than 55%. But if you consider center plus state, okay, then which one will be more? You already know the most revenues of state, tax revenue of state is actually coming from state VAT, which is indirect tax. Okay, so when I'm talking about center plus state, the direct tax actually contributing around 40 to 45%. Okay, so and indirect taxes actually more than half in that case. Center plus state, if I combine, more than half is indirect tax. Okay, and direct tax is coming around 45%. You don't want to know exact figure, you need to have this rough idea that if you take at the center level, direct tax contribution is more than half, and if you take center and state together, the total tax collected, or the total tax revenue, the indirect tax is more than 50%. Okay, so this is a brief idea that you need to have. You don't want to remember exact figure, exact percentage. That's actually not required. What about corporate income tax? Corporate income tax, it actually decreased. Okay, why decreased? We have already discussed this point because of the problem of the twin balance sheet problem that we have discussed in one of the previous session. So actually corporate income tax is decreased. Okay, various issues also we have discussed related to that. So I hope that is clear. So these are the important features of Indian tax structure. Now, one more important feature of Indian tax structure is low tax GDP ratio. Okay, so one of the recent economic survey 2017-18, it was given that center plus state, if you consider, it is around 16.7. You roughly need to have an idea, that is 17%. Okay, so 16.7 is the tax GDP ratio which was given, and out of this center share is actually 10.5%. So what will be the state share? State share is actually 6.2%. So total it is 16.7%. And there was a comparison in that economic survey with OECD countries, okay, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. So, and for them it was 34%. So you can see almost twice of our country, right? So the tax GDP ratio of OECD countries are 34%, and in our case it is half, that is 17%, which is actually a big problem, which indicates what? It indicates the low tax revenue collected. Okay, so tax to GDP ratio means tax GDP. It is low means numerator is actually very low. And this was one of the question in prelims also in 2016. And the question was, which among the following are the reasons for low tax to GDP ratio? Okay, so the options were like this. I don't remember which among the following were the reasons, or which among the following is not a reason. Anyway, I'm going to discuss that. I'll give you the 4 options which was there. So the first one was actually low per capita income. Now you can apply your logic here and you can get this answer for the first case. Okay, see, low per capita income means what? It is actually income is very low. Now income is very low means the taxable income is going to be low. So what will happen ultimately? Tax collected will be low. So tax to GDP ratio will be low, because numerator is going to be low, so that ratio is also going to be very low. Okay, so this is actually one of the reason for low tax to GDP ratio in India, low per capita income. Okay, see, if it is doubled, okay, if your income is doubled, forget about per capita income, if your income is doubled, let's say your income is 3 lakh, okay, your income is 3 lakh. Now, how much amount you need to pay for 3 lakh? I've already discussed this case, 0 to 2.5, you don't want to pay anything, and for rest of the 50,000, you need to pay at 5%, and you'll be paying 2,500 as the tax. Now, if your income is doubled to 6 lakh, then how much you need to pay? 0 to 2.5, you don't want to pay anything. Next, 2.5 to 5, you need to pay at 5%, so you'll be paying 12,500. Okay, and then for 1 lakh, you need to pay at 20%, because 5 to 10 lakh, it is 20%. So you will be paying around 20,000, right? So you'll be paying 20,000 for that 1 lakh. So effective burden is going to be 32,500. So if your income is 3 lakh, you'll be paying 2,500. If your income doubled, you can see that taxable income or the tax collected is actually more than 10 times of the previous case. Okay, so if your income is doubled, the tax revenue will be 3 times or 4 times, because that is the kind of tax structure that we have. Different tax slabs is having different rates, right? Immediately from 5 to 10% doubling. So the tax rate is doubled, so tax collected will also going triple, 4 times, 5 times, etc. because of this exemptions at the initial level. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Low per capita income is one of the reason. Second option was this one, inequality. Okay, inequality or inequitable distribution of income, that was the option. So what do you think? Most of the students will mark this also as the answer, because inequality is something which is not desirable, and low tax to GDP ratio is also not desirable. So both are not desirable, both are negatives. So generally people will mark this as answer. But imagine what is actually going to happen. You use your common sense. Let's suppose 5 lakh is the total income in an economy, and let's consider in this economy only 2 people are there. Okay, and this 5 lakh is divided among 2 people equally, 2.5 lakh and 2.5 lakh. So this is a pure equal society, egalitarian society. 2 people are there earning the same, so there is no concept of inequality here. Now in this case, how much government will get from each people? So from here, this person government will get 0, this is person A, this is person B. From here also government will get 0, because the exemption is 2.5 lakh. Okay, so government is going to get 0, and 0 from 2 people. So basically government effectively getting 0. Now you consider the case of a society which is extremely unequal. So what I can do here, I'll go for this person is earning 0 and this person is earning the entire 5 lakh. So in this case government is getting how much? From this person government is going to get tax. So government will be getting around 12,500 as a tax. So in the first case income in the economy is the same, 5 lakh. In the second case also income in the economy is same, but in the first case it was equitably distributed, so government is actually getting low tax or nothing, and in this case there is a high inequality, so government is getting tax. So what I want to tell you is, if there is more inequality, it is actually better from this perspective of government, that government will get very high taxation, because this inequality will reflect to that some people is having huge income and they will come under the super rich category, or their income will come under higher tax slabs and tax rates, and they will be charging more, they will be paying more tax. If you're, see, I am going with the assumption that they are not evading or they are not going to avoid taxes. So in this context, in equal society, government will get more tax. Equal society, if income is equitably distributed, everyone will fall under the lower tax slabs, so government will get very less tax. Okay, so so can I say this is the reason? Low tax to GDP ratio, inequality is not the reason. Okay, so high tax to GDP ratio, then inequality is the reason. Low tax to GDP ratio, it shows actually equality, but Indian society is not based on equality or egalitarian. But anyway, this is not the answer. Some of the students will mark because both are negative, and Indian society is characterized by inequality and low tax to GDP ratio. Both are seen, so you may try to connect it, but logically and in mathematically I have explained it, so I hope you understood this. So that is not possible. The next option was narrow tax base. So this is direct. Narrow tax base means only few people are paying tax. I've already told you 7% of the people are paying tax. What does that mean? The tax revenue will be low, so low tax to GDP ratio. This is also an answer. Okay, and last one is complex tax laws. So obviously this is also an answer, because complex tax laws will enable you to go for tax avoidance, and there will be a lot of instances of tax evasion, so tax revenue will come down. So obviously low tax to GDP ratio, one of the reason is this. So in this context, which one is standing out? Inequality is standing out. So if the question is which one is not the reason, then inequality is the answer. Which among the following are the reason? Then 1, 3, 4 are the reasons for low tax to GDP ratio. So I hope this point is clear. You need to have a very clear idea about all these, but you can't study all this. You just need to use common sense only, and all these things actually we have discussed, the entire concept that we have done in our previous sessions. Okay, now next concept is tax elasticity. So what is tax elasticity? When we discussed about income elasticity, price elasticity, I've told you it is the responsiveness of demand with respect to change in price. In case of price elasticity, in case of income elasticity, responsiveness of demand in terms of change in income. Okay, so if the income is changing, demand is changing accordingly, you will say it is elastic. Okay, similarly, if price is changing, your demand is changing accordingly, then the demand is elastic. Okay, so all those things we have discussed in one of our previous module. So here tax elasticity means, here we are seeing how much this tax revenues responsive to change in national income, okay, or GDP. So let me write it down. Responsiveness of tax revenue to GDP or national income. Okay, so if the national income is increased or GDP is increased by 5% and the tax revenues also increased by 5%, then we can say it is elastic. Okay, so, or you can take it in this way: percentage change in tax revenue to percentage change in GDP. So this is what tax elasticity. One more concept is there, that is tax buoyancy. Okay, tax buoyancy. So in case of tax elasticity, we are only considering tax revenue and national income. Here we are also considering some other features and factors like tax structure and the changes in tax structure, and all these things will be taken into consideration while calculating tax buoyancy. So tax buoyancy is, I'll write it down, it is the responsiveness of tax revenue. So numerator it will be tax revenue to the overall change in national income, GDP, and the tax structure or provisions. Okay, so I hope it is clear. So it is so here we are talking about overall change. So this is overall change. Here you can see overall change, but here it is only related to national income. So we are only considering national income in case of elasticity, and we are considering overall change in case of tax buoyancy. Now tell me which one is easy to calculate, tax buoyancy or tax elasticity? You may think that here we are only dealing with national income and tax revenue. This will be easy to calculate, but that is not the case. Tax buoyancy is easy to calculate, and tax buoyancy is actually showing the entire features of Indian tax structure. Okay, I'll show you how. Let's suppose your the tax collected in the last year is 100 crore, and now this year you collected 110 crore. So there is a increase of 10%. Now imagine GDP is also increased by 10%. So what value you'll get when you take the change in percentage change in tax revenue and percentage change in tax, both are same, so you'll be getting value as 1. Now tell me, what is this one? Is it tax elasticity or tax buoyancy? It is not tax elasticity, it is tax buoyancy, because actual change in tax collected, this 110, is because of many other things. It is also related to change in tax structure and change in tax provisions. So when I am talking about the actual revenue which is collected, it involves all the changes, overall changes, including tax structure, tax revenue, tax provisions. Everything is actually reflected in this 10%. So what you got, this one is actually tax buoyancy and not tax elasticity. Now how to calculate tax elasticity? If you need to calculate tax elasticity, you have to make an assumption that what will be the amount you would have collected if there are no changes in the tax structure and provision compared to last year. Okay, so here changes are there. So it was 110 crore. Now you have to assume that there was no changes, and you have to get an tax revenue which is not included by or not affected by those change in structural provisions. So let's suppose you get it as, let's say, 107 crore. Okay, so you can see here change is 7% upon 10%. So you'll get 0.7, and this 0.7 is your tax elasticity. So what you got is tax buoyancy, which includes overall change. Okay, and this 0.7 which you got is tax elasticity, which is only taking into consideration that tax revenue which is collected and national income, without talking about overall impact. So I hope this is clear. Now let's move on to Laffer curve. Again, very important from prelims point of view. Laffer curve. Okay, so who gave this? It was given by Arthur Laffer. Now what is this? This curve is like this: tax rate on the x-axis and tax revenue here. And what he's saying is, when the tax rates are increasing, initially the tax revenue will increase, but later it will come down like this. So this is actually the Laffer curve. So tax rate is increasing, so initially tax revenue will increase, you can see here, but when after reaching here, what will happen? More the tax rate, it is more prone to tax evasion. People won't pay tax, people will be demotivated to pay tax, people try to evade tax, people won't even go for work, because people start thinking that, if I'm going for work and I'm paying 70 to 80% to the government as tax, then why I need to go for work? Secondly, it will also motivate people to go to unorganized sector than the organized sector, because in unorganized sector there is a chance that you can avoid tax. Okay, you can evade tax, but not possible in organized sector. So and if you remember, I've told you 1991 the tax rates were very high, and the revenue which was coming was also not great. And when the tax rates was reduced after Chalaya committee recommendations, and I have told you the direct tax rates are consistently increasing. So 1991 we had 19% out of the total tax revenue. Now it is 55%. Okay, so the tax rates less is actually better, but still in India's case it is moderately high. So that's about Laffer curve. Now we'll move on to tax expenditure. Some of the students are of the opinion that the expenditure that is incurred by the government to collect taxes what tax expenditure. That is not the case. Tax expenditure is actually tax subsidy. Okay, see, some cases government will give you rebates, government will give you deductions, so it is actually the tax revenue forgone by the government. See, if you remember, I've told you 2.5 up to 2.5 it is exempted, so that is actually a kind of exemption. Then if your income is less than 3 lakh, I've told you there is a rebate of 2500. Okay, so this is also forgone by the government. These are tax subsidy or these are tax expenditure and not the expenditure which is incurred by the government to collect tax. So that has to be very clear. Let me write it down. I'll write it down. It refers to tax revenue forgone by the government due to specific provisions, specific tax provisions like special exemptions, rebates we have discussed, deferrals, special tax rates, etc. Okay, or in another language you can also write it as it is the difference between potential tax revenue under a standard tax structure and the actual tax revenue. Actual tax revenue may be because of due to different special concessions you may get less. Okay, so let's suppose the potential tax revenue is, let's say, 100 crore and the actual collected amount is, let's say, 60 crore. So this difference 40 crore is the tax expenditure or tax subsidy, and it is not easy to calculate because how to calculate the potential tax revenue. Now if you can calculate the potential tax revenue exactly correctly, then you can identify the people who pay tax. Then the chances of tax evasion and avoidance are all going to be very minimum, and that is possible in the organized sector. If it has to be a cashless economy, so here it is a very difficult task even to calculate this tax expenditure or tax subsidy. It is not easy task. Okay, so I hope the discussion today is clear. We have covered all the points related to taxation. So 9 lectures are there. If you listen to this 9 lecture, you will get everything related to taxation at any level of examination, whether it is RBI, UPSC, at the very high level we have done it. If you have any doubt, you can get in touch with me. This is my